The Biden administration finally gave its formal approval to Alaska's Willow Oil Project, making it the hottest topic in the last couple of weeks. Even though the intention of the U.S. government is to extract 600 million barrels of oil from the federal lands in Alaska, it can be considered one of the United States' most controversial projects in recent history, considering its significant impact on the environment. This Willow Oil Project will be an investment worth an estimated $8 billion, and it will be run entirely as a private project under funding from ConocoPhillips, who were searching for oil in Alaska for several years. In this video, we're going to talk about the controversial Willow Oil Project and the pros and cons of it. Before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. The Willow Oil Project is expected to develop on Alaska's largest strip of undeveloped land, which is positioned 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle. This is the largest oil drilling project proposed in the entire history of the United States, and through this drilling program, investors aim to tap the oil reserves in the petroleum-rich North Slope of Alaska. This oil reserve is estimated to be the size of Indiana, and after the completion of the project, it will have an oil production capacity of 180,000 barrels per day. This project will represent 1.5% of America's total oil production. Willow was originally approved by the Trump administration in 2020 with 5 drilling pads. However, the Biden administration reduced this number to 3 with the aim of reducing the oil extraction rate. But using these 3 pads, investors will be able to extract 90% of the oil they are pursuing. Expressing his thoughts about the project, U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan said, "The development could be one of the biggest, most important resource development projects in our state's history. This will add a huge boost to the crude oil supply received from Alaska, which is currently running with a capacity of 498,000 barrels per day. But it ran with a supply of over 2.1 million barrels per day via Trans-Alaska Pipeline in the 1980s. After the completion of the Willow Oil Project, this supply will rise by a considerable amount." ConocoPhillips is the sole license owner for drilling in these federal lands in the North Slope, and they have a special relationship with the petroleum industry of Alaska as the only active energy company currently carrying out oil drilling operations in Alaska's National Petroleum Reserve.
The company behind the Willow Project, ConocoPhillips, says it will create local investment.
As a government, if they sought legal action against ConocoPhillips, the court would surely order steep fines for the violation of terms in the lease. According to its explanations, the Biden administration had its hands tied with the arrangements made by the Trump administration regarding the problem. However, this is totally against the climate goals that President Joe Biden promised during his election campaign. The lease does not give Conoco the right to do whatever they want, but it does convey certain rights, said John Leshy, who served as the Interior Department's solicitor under President Bill Clinton. So the administration must take that into account. I would not say that their hands were tied, but their options were limited by the lease rights. Up to this point, Joe Biden famously fought strongly against the climate challenges, promoting alternative energy sources like wind and solar power in place of fossil fuels. As a presidential candidate, he promised voters with regards to global warming, no more drilling on federal lands, period. Period, period, period. But the president approved this Willow Oil Project freely without a court order or a congressional mandate, going against his own policies. Even though ConocoPhillips has been greenlit by the U.S. government, it's not clear when they are going to commence the project. But they need to do it during the winter season, as ice roads are essential to build the rest of the infrastructure for the project. Still, Alaska is in winter, and most probably it will extend up to April. Then they need to immediately transport the things needed to construct hundreds of miles of roads and pipelines and a processing facility. However, ConocoPhillips will surely have to deal with many legal challenges of environmental activists before the commencement, and must wait for the decision of the courts before any further investments. So the chance for the commencement of the project this year is very limited. Many people question why the U.S. government is trying to continue the Willow Oil Project despite trying to obtain fossil fuels in a cleaner way elsewhere, or going to the second option of importing oils from Saudi Arabia or Venezuela. But federal officials under the Trump administration took action to maximize domestic drilling activities with the aim of reducing net global emissions through the reduction of oil imports. According to the estimations, oil extracted through the Willow Project will produce more than 263 million tons of greenhouse gases over the project's 30-year span. That means roughly 9.2 million metric tons of greenhouse gases may be added. This is nearly equal to the combined emissions of 1.7 million passenger cars over the same time period. So it will have a huge impact on global warming, opening doors for further environmental problems like rapid warming of the Arctics. This project is also a greater threat to the habitats of native species and alters the migration patterns of animals. Environmental activists define this project simply as a carbon bomb because of the environmental impacts that it carries. After granting permission for the Willow Oil Project, there is a risk of losing many young voters from the Democratic Party, as this is a major breach of their trust. President Biden's decision to move forward with the Willow Project abandons the millions of young people who overwhelmingly came together to demand he stop the project and protect our futures, said Varshini Prakash, executive director of the Sunrise Movement, a youth-led climate change advocacy group. Jeremy Lieb, an Alaska-based senior attorney at environmental law group Earth Justice, said this is a huge climate threat and inconsistent with this administration's promises to take on the climate crisis. Earth Justice is the main environmental activist group currently carrying out protests and legal cases against the Willow Oil Project, and they expect several other organizations will join their movement in the near future. Even though Biden's government is trying to give the impression that his hands are tied regarding the legal side of the project, environmental activists pointed out that the U.S. government has the legal authority to halt the ConocoPhillips permit for drilling, given the project's impact on the climate and the danger it presents to freshwater sources as well as to migratory birds, caribou, whales, and other animals that inhabit the proposed project site. Furthermore, an online TikTok campaign emerged against the Willow Oil Project in the last week, resulting in over 1 million letters being sent to Biden's office. In addition, more than 2.8 million signatures have been collected for the online petition on change.org to halt the project. Even though there is heavy protest from environmental activists, the project has already gained support from some of the native groups in the North Alaska region. They expect that the Willow Project will boost the economy of the region as well as the infrastructure, creating a better life for the natives in the region. President of the advocacy group Voice of the Arctic and Inupiat, Nagota Karcherik, said, "Willow presents an opportunity to continue that investment in the communities. Without that money and revenue stream, we're reliant on the state and the feds." However, some of the Alaskan natives and local authorities from the native village of Niuskit, close to the proposed project site, are still concerned about the health and environmental impacts of the project. Niuskit Mayor Rosemary Atanguruk and 2 other Niuskit city and tribal officials have sent a letter to Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland addressing the issue. Villages get some financial benefits from oil and gas activity, but experience far fewer impacts than Niuskit, the letter reads. "We are at ground zero for the industrialization of the Arctic. From an economical point of view, this is good for the American economy, as it can provide a permanent solution to the rapidly rising energy demand of an industrialized country such as the United States. But on the other hand, it will have a significant impact on the environment as well. Considering both factors, it's difficult to make a conclusion regarding the issue, and a lot of things will happen within the next few weeks, deciding the future of the entire Willow Oil Project. I think the White House feels the president has strong climate credentials now, but that he does need to reach out to working-class voters in swing states who care about gasoline prices," said Paul Bledsoe, a former climate aide in the Clinton administration who now works at the Progressive Policy Institute. What do you think about the Willow Oil Project? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to get more exciting political news. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.